can rise, please. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Before the start of the regular meeting tonight, we met in executive session. We discussed matters of labor relations and two litigation issues in our zoning areas. So that's what we did in executive session. We also did an interview of a gentleman for our Water and Sewer Advisory Board, and the board will entertain a motion in that regard, if there is one to be had.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Dan Wood to the Public Water and Sewer Committee.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Board interviewed him, found him to be a worthy candidate. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We have a presentation tonight before we get into the regular meeting, and that is from the Parks and Recreation group of folks. Karen Sweeney here from the, our Executive Director of Parks and Rec, and then Chairman of the Parks and Rec Board is here, also John Bray. And who else is here? Other members of the Park and Rec Board are here. Members received a memo ahead of time from Karen Sweeney and John Bray. So we're pretty much up to speed on what the contents are, so we're good to go, but feel free to.
Thank you for allowing me to come to speak tonight.
Karen, you need to speak into the microphone.
I'm trying to, I can't see this from this angle. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. One of the things we've realized as the clock is ticking away is that we're a couple short weeks from putting the program guide to print for the summer, and a few short months from moving into the new Township building office space, which brings up the concern of temporary or interim space while final decisions are made on the status of the permanent recreation space. I'm here to request, you have my memo, I'm not going to reiterate that. We're here to request consideration for retention of the trailers, the admin trailers, to serve as the interim activity space location so that we can continue providing the services to our community that we have a long history of serving to the community. We've done a lot of background research leading to this chart and calculating back usage, space usage, the opportunity that the Township building meeting room would or would not afford and allow us to serve. We know there are a number of prohibitions for certain programs or types of programs in the new space, which certainly makes some level of sense, but it brings us down to pretty much nothing more than classroom type space, which limits the amount of programs to 5 to 10 types of programs. And as we speak about sampling of programs. Programs have a life. They go on, they peak, they slide back down, they come around full cycle again. So they're ever changing. So we're looking at a historical average sampling of programs, and have looked at it from the holistic point of hours available down to seasonal use, and then bringing it back around to what the opportunity would be to move into something like the trailer space as a temporary location. So when you look at your chart, the bars speak for themselves. Underneath, there's the space usage. That's definitive usage of space over available number of hours. And we believe by moving into the trailers and looking at our historical program sampling that we could increase usage, bring back rental opportunities that are lost. People are still calling for that. The second line speaks to participation, their historical averages. You can see that it's dropped by working out of this double trailer. We believe it'll drop further because some of the programs that we are trying to offer and that the community like, it's not about whether we like them, it's about the community that we serve likes them and participates in them, drops further. And we believe by using the space available more in tune with what we knew as the activity center, at least in the interim, will provide us that opportunity to get back to normal and even grow a little farther.
Okay, so the request is that we allocate $22,000 to extend the administrative trailer lease Will that just take us through 19, or will it take us to 20?
That'll take us through 19, and Mrs. Lyons, we have done a little bit further research thanks to our budget analyst today, and we know that there is a cost to remove the trailers, and while that cost does not go away, it would get pushed further out, and it's fairly equivalent to the 6-month remaining lease on those trailers. So in essence, sort of a little bit of conversion in the system, it would be pretty much a wash for the first year.
Okay.
Knowing that that still would have to be budgeted down the road for removal.
Understood.
And that's 21.7 that would have been the cost of removal this year versus the 22, just for clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, just-
Any questions
well,
from the board?
Yes. When I look at your participation, so if you, well, it's different.
Yes, yeah, there is a calculation error that we picked up today in
Okay.
converting the percentage.
It's even better, yeah.
It is
So
better, correct.
Does that tell me that you would utilize the admin trailers more than you had used the activity center?
We believe that, yes, we can. We believe we can, but, and we also believe that it affords us the space, which didn't have in the past, to double up some programming, so similar programming, rain location that enhance the outdoor programs that might have to be brought indoors or run indoors. So we believe we can double up in some programming,
Okay.
along with rentals and other opportunities. And
The other thing I thought of after we had met
Sure.
earlier, was there any analysis done on what the break-even point is renting the trailer versus buying the trailer?
that we have not,
And you don't have to answer it now.
I don't.
If there wasn't any,
I'd have to
I
meet
would
with-
just like to,
I'm the wrong, right.
Yeah, get up
Yeah.
to the microphone. The guy in the back's going to yell at you.
yeah,
I should know that. We brought up the notion of buying during the budget workshops, and it was soundly put down. It's about $275,000.
okay. I
So
did
I
recall
think the
number,
break-even is
275. Okay.
not there.
The other concern with that would be that they are definitively constructed to be temporary spaces, so the longevity of them holding up at a purchase value would be,
I just forgot the
Questionable.
number.
Right.
That's okay.
All right, any other questions of Karen? No? Is there a
I'm just
motion to
surprised that
approve?
it's that much.
Pardon me?
Is that for all the trailers or just to buy?
Just for the 6.
Just for those 6?
Yeah.
So it's 40,000 a trailer? If my math is half close?
I don't think that's unreasonable, actually.
Really?
I mean, look at this place.
I'm in the wrong business.
Well, it's like it's a facility that's quite comfortable, and,
Well,
I think we should just do away with our new building and just keep these. Seriously, I mean, I think this is a good quality facility we had for the last 2 years. and
yeah, I mean, the Park and Rec group need interim space for sure. So yes, we should definitely extend the life of those 6 to accommodate your needs.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect, Mr. Snyder? Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion on that,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Second?
I'll second.
All right, any other questions? Anybody else have any questions? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great, thanks.
thank you for your
Okay, thank you, Karen. All right, part 2, Mr. Bray. And the board has also received your memo. And I think we're good to go, but feel free. I know there are questions.
While we're getting a graphic up, I'll start off by just explaining for the benefit of the folks in the township who aren't here tonight. You all know this, of course. The activity center that was referenced in Karen's presentation, of course, was our former indoor program space. We lost that program space, as of course you know, because it was essentially the second floor of the Public Works Department. They needed the space. Their needs have changed, and so we were booted out. We were supposed to get a brand-new building as part of our new administrative complex, but as things worked out, it turned out to be too expensive. We think it was too expensive in large part to the site work. The location of the recreation, the new standalone recreation building, was going to be over by the New Britain Road playing fields. It was going to be located in probably one of the hilliest parts of that site adjacent to the existing parking lot, and the cost of preparing a flat spot on a hilly site with all of the retaining walls and other costs associated was really pretty high. It was over $1 million just to give us a flat piece of ground to put our building on. So this was a blow to the Parks Department. The Park and Rec Board decided to try and turn what was a negative into an opportunity. So we started looking at a building. We decided that we would take it upon ourselves to do the first part of what is traditionally a three-part phase for any design or any construction project, and that is that we would develop a schematic design for a new building that we thought would actually mostly pay for itself in the long run. And so what you see on the board is a representation of a very basic schematic design for a community recreation building, community center really, that includes all kinds of different program spaces. If you look at this, the parts to the left are the parts that will be mostly used by the Parks and Recreation Department to fill our program needs. The same needs that we would place temporarily in a couple of the trailers that we just voted to rent for the balance of the year. The right part is a full-size basketball court, and that's the part that's going to pay for the building, because as it turns out in our area in Doyletown Township and the immediate region, there isn't enough indoor program space, and there are a lot of organizations that are screaming for space and time on courts and can't find it because the schools are booked, the Y's booked, and it's just not available anywhere. And we know that we can make some money by renting that space, and even though this building is bigger than the one that we're not building, it's very likely going to pay for itself. But in order to be sure, we decided to ask you for the money that it will take to show what this building looks like on a part of our property that we think would be more appropriate. And that location is actually also adjacent to the New Britain Road parking lot, but really right along the road where it's already flat. We would inevitably displace some parking, but we can replace that parking and add to it relatively inexpensively by just using a crushed stone parking lot that doesn't require much site work. We can just let it pretty much lie along the existing terrain, and we think that we can replace the parking relatively inexpensively. We think that all of the utility hookups will be much less expensive, and that it will all around be a much better location. We've looked at 3 other locations at Central Park, and we've even talked to a developer that was willing to build our building and rent it back to the township. That's an easy thing for us to do, but we think it's the most expensive option, and so we wanted to explore this first. So what we're asking you to do tonight is to fund some of our township professionals to, number one, develop essentially a sketch plan, an engineered drawing that shows this building on the site that we have in mind. Number two, it would include a preliminary review by our planner for all of the things that we should be worried about in terms of parking and other code issues. And number three, a professional cost estimate as to what it would cost to build the building. The nature of this building is really much different than the one that we were originally going to build over there. This would, as we envision, would be a pre-manufactured metal building, inherently less costly, and a relatively inexpensive way, excuse me, to house our program needs. So those 3 components add up to $14,900. We're asking you to fund that tonight so that when we come back to you with a more formal proposal, which includes the cost of the building, a more complete list of the programs that we expect it to accommodate, and a business plan, which we're working on with the Ways and Means Committee, that will show how it could be funded, and how it would pay for itself, at least the majority of the cost. So that's what we're asking for tonight.
Where's the site?
The site is along New Britain Road, really encroaching into the parking lot along New Britain Road.
The original site that was too expensive?
No,
Just-
it's across the parking lot.
Across the parking lot?
Closer to New Britain Road.
Right.
Wasn't that, a lot of that engineered already, or was it further up onto this park that was engineered by Pickering Courts?
You mean, in terms of engineered, I don't understand your
The
question.
site engineering was done on that, wasn't it?
The site engineering was done on the location closest to where the fields are.
Right.
The expensive location.
Yeah.
Right, but too expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, so this
We
is
can't-
another
that's-
location.
We can't really take much advantage of that, no.
Yeah.
Because that was very expensive.
To the extent, well, we're not asking for site engineering. We're really just asking Pickering Courts to draw it, basically to draw a reasonable representation of what it would look like on that site, so that we can get some sense of how it sits and what other ramifications may befall us by you choosing that particular location.
Questions?
I'm just wondering, like, why we couldn't have a business plan before this step, like a business plan that kind of lays out, because I think conceptually, you know that you want to have a basketball court, right? One or two basketball courts, or
Well, one basketball court.
okay, so one basketball court, and is it about getting the size down? Like, would they lay out what the size is? Like, do you not have an idea of that right now, or do you have an idea in your head, like how big you want it to be, but you're waiting for the site plan to?
No, we know how big it will be. We know this building is, I think, roughly 11,000 square feet.
Okay.
And we know about what it would cost. We've had some people that make pre-manufactured buildings tell us, it costs so much per square foot, and we threw in a little for architectural fees, and we threw in something for site work. But we think that if we're going to come to you and ask you to actually fund the construction of a new community center, we need to have all of our ducks in a row. We don't want to guess at what it's going to cost, because that's kind of what got us into trouble now. We want to know what it's going to cost, and we want to be able to show you exactly how our user fees are going to offset a majority of the cost of the new building. It's not, it's going to cost the township from out of pocket. It always was going to, even with the building that we're not building. But we think that this is a responsible way to approach the needs of our community. It's a responsible way to plan our future in terms of our park and recreation needs. And we think that it's an appropriate step at this point before we come to you and ask you to fund an actual building. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
I know the committee had looked at several alternatives, as you had mentioned.
Yes, we did.
What I would like to see is you come forward to the Board of Supervisors with those others to help us identify, for all of us to see and help us identify why you're choosing this one. We're not seeing the whole picture of all the work that the committee has done.
That's true. I was trying to be brief.
All right, he wants you, if you could just paragraph every,
Yes,
paraphrase
but
every one.
let me explain what I think is practical in terms of addressing that request. So we're spending, let's see, $6,100 for Pickering Courts to draw this building on that one site. We can't afford to pay them $6,100 to draw it on all of the other sites that we're looking at. So we're happy to show it to you, but it's going to be sort of a less professional representation.
That isn't really what I was saying. I mean, you had looked at other sites, and you looked at a developer who was proposing
Correct.
that maybe you could work with him. You have to have some criteria how you made those decisions.
Yes.
None of those work. This one works.
Right.
That is what
We actually developed
Board of Supervisors.
a whole matrix of things just for our own consideration, and I would be happy to share as much of that with you as you're willing to listen to. But
I think that's where the discussion
Well,
needs
yeah,
to be.
I think we are interested, John, and that's what I think we've been, for the last couple of years, been trying to get across. We have to make this ultimate decision where the building's going to be and how much it's going to cost. And we want to know what options were looked at, what the results were, why one was good and why one was not so good, so that we can...
I can speak to some of that right now, if you would like.
I think at a later date you can send us that information,
Okay.
or we can talk about it, because I'd
They
like to
need a
get into...
decision on going forward today.
Then I make a motion, we table it.
So,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Go to the mic.
Hang on.
Wait till your turn.
Hang on. Hold on that motion for a second, and maybe John can address some of these things right now.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the sites that we looked at, we're here. We looked at this site. Actually, I used my engineering firm to put this building on this spot, right where our trailers are. And we made it fit, lost a couple of parking places. But the problem that we ran into is really parking. Parking in this area is horrendous, and there really wasn't anywhere to put any more parking. Not only that, but it was crowded. Putting this building of this size on this site was a real squeeze. So another site we looked at was over at Field 3, which is the playing field closest to the Game Grove. Has parking lot right there. Nice spot, but we give up a playing field. And so it was the collective decision of the park board that, you know what, that maybe isn't the good idea. And so neither was having to take up the basketball courts, which are out of use, obviously, because we're sitting on them. So we didn't like that idea, and we didn't really find another good spot to put the basketball courts. So I went and talked to the developer who's working over at Tabor Homes, and I brought him this drawing, and they priced it up. He actually did his own kind of quick back-of-the-envelope market study and determined, you know what, I could do this myself and make a profit because there's that much demand in the area. So he sent us a proposal to lease it, and which I'll be happy to share with you. I don't have those figures with me, but it was expensive, very expensive. And so it was the collective decision of the Park and Recreation Board and the Ways and Means Committee that that's not a good thing for us to spend our money on unless we really are interested in certain aspects of that. One good thing about it is that it was only a 5-year commitment, so we'd have to sign a 5-year lease, and then if we didn't like paying all that money, we could walk away. So
I understand what you're saying, John. And my point is that was nice that you went through all that and you got the spreadsheet and all, but that should be what we see and have had time to look at and evaluate. These steps, I mean, that's our responsibility, not the collective Park and Rec to say it'd be better over here or better over there. I'd like to see all the 5 or 6 options. Same with the business plan. And Bob sent me the business plan, or went over with me 6 months ago. I responded. And I thought pretty detailed, and there were some good points and some bad points, I'm sure. Never heard a thing. Never heard any response back from you or anyone else. You know, I don't see what's so hard about that. I'm trying to work. I think we're all trying to work with you. But, you know, it seems like you've got your head going this way, and, you know, you don't allow us to make those decisions. And that's our job. That's, you know, you got to respect the process. We should be making those decisions and saying, you know, putting it down where that pavilion is a lousy idea. Okay, great. Your business plan that I sent my comments on, was I totally wrong? Tell me, Rick, you're totally wrong. Your 27 points didn't make any sense. But at least respond to it.
Well, I'm sorry. I would rather present our business plan to the board as a whole and get comments from the board as a whole. I think that sharing bits and pieces with individual supervisors is an appropriate courtesy, but I don't really think that, at least in my view, that's the right way to make the presentation. In terms of sharing with you some of our thought process, I'd be happy to do that and make that part of our presentation. But part of our role as the park board is to consider the recreation needs of the community and to do some of your legwork for you. And so I understand your point, and maybe we are considering our own purview in a little bit too broad a fashion, but we were trying to save you and the rest of the Board of Supervisors the exercise of going through all of this tedious work so that we could come up with a decent recommendation. So that's my best response to your point.
Well, I would like to have more information. I'd like to know what's going on. I'd be happy to sit down with Bob, or if you don't want to do it one-on-one, I think the board should at least have that material. I'm only speaking for myself, and that's why I made the motion to table this until we get more information and the presentation that we just talked about.
So this is my understanding when it comes to this cost that you're asking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was my understanding that the board was looking to present these options to us at a future date, but you need to have this type of analysis done in order to give us a proper review of this specific.
It's too expensive.
This option.
As you can see, we'd have to have the same cost for every individual
Right.
site that we looked at, and we just don't think that's a practical thing. So what we did is as I've explained, we've gone through all the sites, we picked the one that we think is best, and that's the site that we want to spend the money studying.
So this is a part of the packet that you want to present to us in the future with the business plan and
Sure.
the other options that you've looked at.
Happy to.
And you need to have this analysis to be able to complete this part of what you want to present to us.
To make the presentation thorough in the way that we think we should, if we were in your position making a decision, we think this is a necessary component to that presentation.
Maybe I've been around too long, Rick, but I'm kind of familiar with all of these plans that have been floating around for the last, 10, 15 years. And I recall that huge investigation into the area over New Britain Road, which is not feasible, putting them here when we were talking about building this place, which was not feasible because of the parking, because we would have been overparked. We wouldn't have been able to do our administrative offices. So this site was off the table. And then the huge discussion over whether we'd lose a playing field, which is like the lacrosse field, on the one. And that wasn't really viable because we were borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. We'd lose that site to create a building, but then we wouldn't have playing fields. So I recall these discussions, and I trust, John, you've been around for 20 years. I trust that the work of this board, the Park and Rec Board, they've done their homework. Now, we don't have all the bits and pieces of their analysis, which I do believe they will provide, but I also agree that they've done the work, and we should be supporting their efforts at this point to have them focus on the one most viable site, to do the preliminary plan and see what it looks like. And then from there, I understand you would take those costs and then do the business plan, or you're doing the business plan, but that analysis would be consistent with what you're trying to, actually put on paper.
And you'll have all that sufficiently in advance of our formal public presentation so that if you have questions or concerns, either we'll answer them ahead of time or we'll be prepared to answer them at that meeting.
So I'm comfortable with this. I don't like spending money, but I'm comfortable with what the information that I already have personally, and as a member of this board and as a member of the Park and Rec Board for many years. But
What do you think of the pavilion then? Putting the Park and Rec building down with the pavilion?
Off the top of my head, you lose the pavilion, you lose all that space where you have.
Expand it.
But I think that's the comment, is that we should see all those alternatives before we
That's all I'm
invest
asking.
additional money into one solution.
Well-
And it should be this discussion. And the residents that are watching know that we're having those discussions before we approve additional funds. This might be the end result. I'm not saying that,
Can
but
you speak to the pavilion, to
I
expanding
can.
the pavilion?
Same
let
problem.
me ask a different question. What's urgent about getting this approved tonight?
Well, I think you've answered that question a little bit yourselves, because pretty soon, that big nice building next door is going to be finished, and we're going to move in, and we need program space for our park and rec programs. I think to build on Karen's presentation, the park and rec program is like any other business. It develops momentum. And when you have a major business interruption, if you're a business and your building burns down, or you've got a road closure, or the PennDOT is fixing the bridge in front of your restaurant, it hurts. You lose customers, and it takes a long time to get them back. And our park and rec programs are the same way. We need to maintain a viable space on an ongoing basis so that we can build and grow and maintain our recreational opportunities to the community. Otherwise, we'll lose interest, or it will take us a long time to gain it back.
But I'm not suggesting that there's an end date to the admin trailer. If you came next month, that just means we may have to extend that on one more month. That's what I'm
true,
talking about.
but think of the ramp-up time for a building like this.
I
mean, I know you know that because we lived through it, and we've gone all through this years planning and building the building that's underway next door. It's going to take something like that to do this, and
Absolutely.
so as far as we're concerned, time is of the essence. Not because there's a hard deadline, but because we don't want to keep paying $20,000 or $40,000 a year for a couple of trailers to sit on our basketball court. We want to plan for the future and spend our money more wisely.
And that's part of the problem. You come here with this presentation now, this building's been gone for a year and a half or more. So, yeah, it's a process. And all this discussion should have taken place, should take place. I think it's our responsibility, and I'm not, no aspersions on you or the group. I already gave my piece of what I thought. But
Rick, we already sent them away once.
we did.
We sent them away once with a plan that
With a
said, well, it was
14
way too expensive.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that-
absolutely.
It was way too expensive.
Yeah.
So they've done their homework, and they've come back with something more viable.
Well,
You-
it's...
And I know that the sites that they've looked at, now I'm not quite sure about the pavilion,
I don't-
I kind of have some kind of recollection, but...
And I'll make it easy. I
but
don't
we
want to
have
beat it
given-
to death. I
we have
really
given-
don't want to beat it to
I'm
death.
going to make one more point.
All right, I'm
We have
sorry.
given Parks and Recreation short shift throughout this whole process.
Oh.
Short shift, because, and it's one of the most important products of this organization, is providing Parks and Recreation to our residents. And they've been on the back burner now for 2-3 years. And to me, there's an opportunity to move it forward. We should move it forward. Now, if you want to take another meeting to do that, that's fine. But my principal statement is we need to treat Parks and Rec like any other part of this organization.
And we do. I don't...
I don't think we do.
Well, I think...
We haven't.
Yeah, I think we do. But, and it's only for 18% of our residents, by the way. So only 18% of our residents use these facilities. The rest is the borough, et cetera, Plumstead, blah, blah, blah. So that's one thing that I also have to consider. And we all should be considering.
18% of our residents, based on the provisions we had in the past, we don't know, and I suspect that this business plan will tell us how that will expand with more,
I'm just wondering.
principal
That's
provisions.
Kind of, yeah, and that's kind of what I was speaking to. Like, I'm less concerned about the different locations because, frankly, like, I do trust in the Park and Rec Board to say, hey, this is the best viable option. I mean, I would have liked to have seen the other options before, like, we're putting money towards the option. I would have liked to have that information beforehand, but I'm okay with that. But I think more important than that is actually having more informed, a more informed plan around that revenue that's going to come in. Because frankly, if you know the size of the building, you know the square footage, like regardless of the cost of what it's going to take, like you know how much revenue you can draw. Like I'd love to see some of those numbers before we're committing to, because maybe you look at it like you're saying, we believe that it's going to pay for itself, right? But could we actually do a little analysis to say, hey, we know that monthly we're going to be able to bring X amount of dollars in? Like having that information gives me more comfort in saying like, yeah, go forward with the site. Like, we already know we're going to draw X amount of dollars a year from this building.
Well, I'd like to speak to that, just a couple of points. First of all, to the extent that our facilities are used by folks outside of the township, you should love this plan, because the people that are going to pay for it are the people from the surrounding area, as well as our own township residents who are going to rent that basketball court, because that's what's going to pay for the building. And yes, we will show you how that's going to work, because if we were in your position, that's one of the key pieces that we would want to know before we would consider moving ahead with it. So absolutely, we'll show you that. We'll show you the analysis. We'll show you where the numbers came from.
Well, and it's time to move on, but I mean, a lot of this is anecdotal too, John. There's no, we're going to commit to this by any organization. It was all anecdotal. So there's a motion on to table it. If you want to have a special work
Is
session.
there a second to the table motion?
Second.
Okay, the motion's tabled.
You got to vote on that.
Is there all right. Calling the question on the motion to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
I'll say aye, because I think we all should kind of be in agreement on this.
Okay, three ayes, 2 nays.
If you want to do a special meeting, that's fine too, John. I just,
Yeah.
maybe this isn't the right venue.
Let me just make one other point. If we made no money on Parks and Rec, I still think it's our duty, our responsibility to provide that service to our residents. That's all I want.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
Well, I'm hearing that.
No.
Well, I'm hearing that.
We're hearing,
I'm
we don't
hearing to
have
the
enough
contrary.
information to spend commit to spending 14,000.
And Barb, that's not what I was implying. I was just saying we
okay.
we know that we can draw revenue.
The motion has carried.
Yeah.
It's going to go on to another day. Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
And thank you to the board for all the work you've done. Okay. What else? Visitors and public comment. Joe, did you want to make a comment? No. Okay. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, we're moving on to announcements. I want to draw everyone's attention to a contest that's going on, the happening list. Three of our events, all Parks and Rec related, by the way, are up for categories: live music venue, Fido Float, which is our dog park event, and Central Park Kids Castle are all up for a vote on Bucks Happening, and you can go to doylestownrec.com and vote for these three entities. There's a lot of competition, so it's real feather in our cap if we win in these three categories: our music, our dog park, and our Kids Castle playground. So please go and vote. Also, the Mannion Foundation is one of those categories you can vote on, by the way. Yes, I voted on the Travis Mannion Foundation today. All right, so other announcements. We're next meeting on Tuesday, March 5th at 5 p.m. Ski, movie, and the Philadelphia Flower Show tickets are now available at the Township building. New for 2019, Doylestown Township Parks and Rec is running a bus trip to visit the 9/11 Museum and the Memorial in New York on Friday, April 26th. Great idea. You can get more information from doylestownrec.com. Doylestown Township Park and Rec, in partnership with Premier World Discovery, is offering 2 trips in 2019 to California on the rail and to Rome and the country roads in Tuscany. Also, more information at the administrative offices, and the Environmental Advisory Council is going to host a Pennsylvania Lyme Prevention Program at Del Valle University on April 3rd at 7 p.m. And again, more information on our website. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but all those announcements were about our Park and Rec department. Moving on, minutes approval for the February 5th, 2019 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
I have one question.
Yep.
Page 3 of the meeting minutes, or page 17 of your packet, under E, and this was for Andrea to get go for the training. The motion carried 5-0. That should be 4-0.
Okay.
Very good. Well done.
All right.
Attaboy.
Aside from that correction, was there any other
Yes.
questions or comments?
I wanted to note that under what my comments and under supervisor, it said the recorder of deeds was renovating the books in celebration of Black History Month. It's a general. She's renewing or renovating all of the books.
One had nothing to do with the
Extended.
other.
Yeah. So
Right.
that's the only.
That's a good correction. Anything else? With those two corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the February 5th meeting?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Second.
It's already been moved. Yeah,
He already made the motion.
Was there a second?
No.
I'll second it.
No, it was already.
I moved.
Actually, I moved.
He moved and Ken seconded.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Who's on
On the
first?
question, all in favor?
Who's on first?
Aye.
All right. We're back to normal now. Bucks County Transport, Inc. 4 to 1? Oh, because she wasn't here. Abstention. Gotcha.
401.
That was the easy part.
Bucks County Transport, Inc. DART, letter from Lou White and Mr. Volpe outlining the success of the DART. It continues to do well, and they're very grateful for our support. Are they looking for more support?
We've already supported
done it.
for 2019. I'm sure they'll be looking, but it's nice to see they have over 26,000 riders last year.
26,000 riders.
And they have a new design logo on the DART, too.
Yes.
That's great stuff.
It's all good. All right, Sauerman Park Pond.
Yes, you might recall that the EAC came to you and applied for a Growing Greener grant to make improvements to the pond, and unfortunately, they did not receive that grant.
Okay.
So they'll need to kind of reevaluate that.
Are we at the point, was it like $10,000 or something?
No, it was a
It
couple hundred thousand.
was a couple hundred?
Yeah, it was a lot of
It's
money.
expensive.
Yeah.
All right.
In the meantime, since we didn't get the grant, do we know, was there any feedback from EAC, what the next steps are?
That they haven't met.
Oh, they haven't met,
They
okay.
haven't met yet, so they'll have to look at it, and they have a lot on their work plan this year, so they'll have to
it's
evaluate how, what alternatives they may be
Do
able to.
you get any feedback as to why we didn't get approval? Or the next no?
At this point, we got the no, but
Okay.
it just came, so we'll follow.
Yeah, it would be interesting to find out
Yeah.
what we were missing. Okay.
Competition.
Mm-hmm.
There's greater
lot.
need
Yeah.
elsewhere. That's probably
If that's
all it
yeah,
is.
that's fine, okay.
Okay, other happy news. The Pennsylvania Association of Township Supervisors has awarded Doyletown Township outstanding citizen communication for 2018 for many categories. We're first place in, I had this all outlined. We're first place for our social media. We're first place for our website. We're second place for the groundbreaking open house communication video. We're third place for the audio-visual communication for the Bicentennial Gala. And we're third place for the Bicentennial promotional materials. So all these awards will be given out at the annual meeting of the Pennsylvania Association of Township Supervisors. Hundreds and hundreds of people, townships have competed for these prizes, and so we're very proud to receive these awards. And one of us, or two of us, will be at PSATs this year to receive them in our on behalf of the township.
And it is the second time in the last 10 years that we've won this award.
The Outstanding Communication Award,
I had to
yes.
share that.
The second time in the last 10 years. Yep.
Very proud. Very proud.
Thank you. Thank you to our telecommunications
To our staff.
advisory, to our staff, to
Committees, yeah.
Andrea and Karen and Stephanie and all those people who work to do that. Reports from the solicitor.
My report will be later in the agenda, Madam Chairperson.
Chief?
Contained in your packet is two letters of requests to grant tenure to two officers of the department. That's Officer Joe Zucchero in the back and Officer Dan Naflin off to the right. Both officers Officer Zucchero was hired in August of 2017, and Officer Naftalin was hired in March of 2018. Both officers have gone through an extensive field training program, and it is my opinion that they've successfully passed the field training program, and I recommend that they be granted tenure with the department. Officer Zucchero's would be effective today, and Officer Naftalin's would be effective March 5th of 2019.
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Chief. Congratulations,
Thanks,
officer.
guys.
I would like to just add that both officers are going to be an exceptional asset to this department. They both have a great demeanor and attitude to the public. I've never had a single complaint or for either one of them, and I think they're going to be a tremendous asset to this department as we move forward in the next 20, 25 years. Officer Quartz is here in the middle. He served as a training officer to both of them, and I commend him for the amount of time and effort that he put in for these two officers.
Do you care to say anything, Officer Court?
As always, an honor and a pleasure. Dedicated a lot of time to, making sure they have the groundwork to move forward, and they came with the right attitude. So I can commend Chief Logan for finding them. They're great guys, and they're going to do great for the department.
I was there. I was there, too.
Putting the necessary work in.
Yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks,
Thanks for coming. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. I know how exciting it's been for you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Okay. Township engineer. Anything from the township engineer?
I'm good.
You're good? Nothing from you? Director of Operations.
I have a couple of items. First is a memo to Ms. Mason from Mr. Ed Edenbach for requests for expenditures to execute contracts with Applied Video Technology, AVT, to outfit the public meeting room, as well as the Doyletown TV broadcasting system. The base of the first proposal for the public meeting room video production system, which will allow us to record the meetings as well with the cameras, microphones, all that, as well as do presentations with AV equipment, is in the amount of $65,943. I'm asking your approval to execute that contract with AVT.
Any questions, Rick?
Yeah, I got a little confused. I got two. I apologize. It's 65,943 for 2019, and what is 71,972?
Two different sets of work.
Okay, yes, there's
Both
two.
for AVT?
Correct. Both are for Applied Video Technologies. Okay. One is for the public meeting room is going to be
Okay.
a capital
I remember
expenditure.
now. I remember now. My other question is, how much was put in the original budget way back when for this, and how much is this less or more than?
Off the top of my head.
Ballpark.
Well, we had a budgeted for the public meeting room. I don't.
Yeah, would you like me to answer that?
Yes.
Yes, please.
You saw the budget, the first budget figures for AV equipment in meeting rooms during the budget workshops last year. We put in $140,000 that was spread between 19 and 20. And this amount at 71 is about 4,000 more than what we put in 19, but it's considerably less than the total of 140. And we don't expect to get anywhere near 140 by the time we're done. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's within what we were projecting. We used some consultant numbers to put the business plan together originally, and they were a little high. Anyway, this is in, both these items are in the budget.
And the other money is from grants, correct?
Yeah, the first item, the DTV production thing, most of that money has come from grants we've received from Verizon and Comcast, and also some operational savings in our budget. But we have all of that money in a bank account waiting to be spent. And it replaces equipment like these cameras you see on the ceiling are 10 years old. They're on their last legs. And they give you the kind of security grade photos you see on TV where you can't really make out what the person's
Maybe a good
face looks
thing.
like.
All right, any other questions concerning this request? So we need
Make
a
a
motion
motion.
to approve the meeting room AV system from Applied Video.
You make a motion?
Ken made a motion.
I'll second.
All right. And that's for both items? Was that
Correct.
for both items?
That's for
Okay.
both.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Ed.
Good, Ed,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay, other adds and changes.
Yes. I got lots of paperwork. Okay. Second is a change order for the Police and Administration Building for Penn Builders, change order number 6. The memo that was included in your packet has been reduced in scope after discussion by the Building Committee. The Building Committee is recommending the approval of items number 1, 2, and 3. So item number 1 is to furnish and install 5 additional recessed waste receptacles in the amount of $1,943. Item number 2 is to furnish and install 3 additional fire extinguishers and built-in cabinets for an amount of $2,113. And item number 3 is furnish and install a 25% additional carpet for the public meeting room for future repair and replacement in the amount of $2,496.50. Change order number 6 total, $6,552.50. I'm asking for your approval for change order number 6 for
Okay.
Penn Builders.
Thanks. Any questions about the request?
No, we had a good discussion at the Building Committee meeting right before the Board of Supervisors meeting, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the $6,552.50 change order to Penn Builders.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Rick? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Tom Carroll?
One more item. It is a change order to the Electric Tech Incorporated, change order number 3 for the admin and police building, Phase 2 construction. This item was not originally scoped in Electric Tech's bid package. This was an item that was a budget line item that was not part of the original bid package, as I said, because we didn't know the scope of it at the time. This is to supply and install the low voltage telephone and computer cabling system throughout the building. This was reviewed by Phillips and Donovan, as well as by J.D. Bravo and Company, and their recommendations were to approve the scope of work for Electric Tech. We also spoke to Mr. Garten that we would be allowed to award this to Electric Tech, and that was submitted and presented to the Building Committee and approved by the Building Committee as a construction change directive on 2/5, prior to the last Board of Supervisors meeting. Basically, this is to memorialize that change as a change order so that the action can be billed against the project. So I'm asking for your approval for that, and it totals $62,600.
Ken, you want to speak to it at all? You good?
No, I'm good. It's as Dave had mentioned, the reason it has to come through as a change order is because it's a change of scope for Electric Tech. The work itself was always planned, so that's why we had it.
budgeted.
And was budgeted.
Right.
So it's just a matter of tracking it and awarding it to Electric Tech in the proper fashion. So I'd like to make a motion to award the $62,600 change order to Electric Tech.
Okay, thanks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Is there any other questions about this?
No, Building Committee's happy, I'm happy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I would like to add that the schedule that Dave put together was wonderful, showing
Yeah.
the change orders and
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Appreciate
thank the chief for his assistance in helping me with that, so. Thank you, and thank the chief.
Thanks, Chief. Manager, you have anything?
Nothing at this time.
All right. Supervisors, anybody have anything to say? Got to speak up now. Okay. Anybody?
Yeah. I'm good. Just something brief.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We went to Supervisor Snyder, myself, our tax collector, Sam Klodney, and our auditor, Stan Dury, and Stephanie Mason, all went to a Bocado meeting last weekend, and part of that was a discussion about the opioid epidemic, and the Bucks County Drug and Alcohol Society presented, and they offered a lot of tools that we could use to help the people in our community that are dealing with this epidemic, including Narcan training. You can go to their webpage and they can give you an outline on how you can get free Narcan training at their facilities. But they also provided free pill pods. These are basically containers that you can add your medication to with a combination on the top, so it can prevent children from getting to your medication. They aren't tamper-proof. You can break them, but it might be one more tool in your toolbox. They have them at Bucks County Drug and Alcohol, and we also have some here at the Township building.
Okay.
That's it.
Ken, you have anything?
Nothing right now, thanks.
Rick?
I just have one thing. Last Thursday, I had the pleasure of going on a tour of the new building. And if you haven't done it yet, do it.
Snow day.
Well, I don't mean tomorrow.
That's when I'm doing it.
I mean, it was 2.5 hours.
Ooh.
And we went through. And
You can walk faster.
The other Rick enjoyed my company for 2.5 hours, I must say. But it was very, 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 very good to be able to touch things, feel things, understand things, and get a better impression than when you look at the blueprints or when you go in. So if you haven't done it, do it. And I appreciate the staff and Stephanie and everybody letting Rick Shea do that.
Yeah, you must have had your Johnny walking around with you.
He was ready.
Always kidding. And you have anything, Ryan? You good? Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to unfinished business, which we don't have any, right? No?
Correct.
New business, exoneration of the tax collector. And we have to do this, unfortunately, every year because the tax collector can only collect from people who are going to pay. And when he can't
Plus,
collect from
he's
those
legally
people...
obligated to turn over the unpaid taxes to the Tax Claim Bureau. Not he didn't collect, but he can't continue to collect because statutorily it goes to the Tax Claim Bureau.
I was going to say that.
Well,
But that's okay. Moving it along. All right, is there a motion to exonerate the tax collector as detailed in his lien report?
I'll move to exonerate him.
And I'll second it. And it was interesting to see that, the continuation of Sean Toohill being late with his taxes year after year after year. That's disappointing.
All right.
My other question is, what happens, and maybe Sam can answer this, when I see people I know that they owe you $3, they owe us $3.95. I mean, they'd walk in now and give you $5 if they knew it. What's the gap? Did they get a bill for $3.95?
They got it, so there are interim
You
bills.
have
to come up.
Sorry. You have to identify yourself, Sam Kalani.
So they paid the
Tax
wrong
collector.
amount and it was $3.95 short?
No.
All right.
No.
I'll explain.
All right, thanks.
Can't do that.
Okay. Hi, Sam Kolodny, tax collector, Doyletown Township. So, Rick, the answer to your question is, why does somebody have a bill for $3.95? So, assessments are done when there is a change in the property value. So, let's say somebody added a porch in October of last year. Their assessment changes, and they only owe 3 months of that assessment change. And turns out that the overall value would have been whatever, $12 for the year. That assessed value is from October to December. They get a bill, and they have to pay the $3.95. And it does go out in the mail. I send out every other month. We have interim bills that come out, and we send out the notice, and they should pay their bills.
Or not.
And if they don't pay their bills, it does go to Tax Claim Bureau, where they can pay them through February, actually, without any extra penalty. And then additional penalties will start to accrue.
What happens after February? Who follows up and...
The Tax Claim Bureau is located in the center of town at the big round courthouse.
Right.
At 55 Court Street.
And you can make a deal with the Tax Claim Bureau to pay over time the $3.25.
You could. You can.
It's a hardship.
However,
It's a month for...
it's a very good point, Barbara. You can make a deal with the Tax Claim Bureau, but you cannot make a deal with me.
No, that's
I have to accept the entire amount of the bill when it is due.
Yes,
So that's another interesting point.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have a good day.
Motion and second. Did we call the question yet? No. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Land Development Walk, Doyletown Walk.
Mr. Edelman, is you representing the applicant? There's no action requested tonight. This is just kind of an up-to-date, what's happening, where are you? Not requested, nor is there any intention to provide any approvals, whatever, tonight. It's just a matter of, here's where we are, this is what we've been doing, and if you have any questions, here we are.
Mr. Garten, I would just point out that the board does need to act on the
Need to
letters
act
of
on the
extension. There's
extensions,
two
yes.
of them.
Thank you. Good evening. Greg Edelman here on behalf of the applicant. It's nice to see everyone again.
Hi, Greg. Who else was here with you?
We have Jeffrey Madden from ESE Engineers and Emily Stewart as well. Jeff is the engineer, Emily is the planner.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As Mr. Garten stated, we're here really to represent, I think, what was the same plan before this board when we went through on the Tradesville over public improvements overlay district zoning amendment. The plan has not changed in any real substantive way since we were back in front of this board many months ago. Still 137 townhome units on the Bray, Long, and Schmidt properties. The configuration is virtually identical to what you saw in the sketch plans. It is a preliminary final application, and we've received a recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission after going there for, I think it's 2 or 3 meetings, I can't remember how many. While we went through this process with the township engineer and landscape architect and everyone else, it was identified that we also needed some variances as well as a conditional use approval. The variances are from floodplain ordinance non-disturbance provisions, where we are running sewer and water from the pump station that I know this board is familiar about. In order to run it to the property and to the project, we have to bring it across and underneath streams and floodplains. The conditional use is similar, but from a different provision. The conditional use is to permit disturbance of your riparian buffers for virtually the same locations, and also, I believe, a small portion of one of the stormwater basins. So the conditional use will come through before this board in one of your soon or near future meetings, along with the preliminary final land development application. We have a number of waivers as well. I'm not going to go through them tonight. There's about 25 of them. They've been reviewed ad nauseum by your engineers and planners. I don't think there's any major issues with any of them, but when the time comes, we'll go through them with you as well. With respect to the overall land development plan, it really is about layout, site plan things, and a couple on the stormwater management, which maybe you'd want to focus on more than others. In a nutshell, the major topics that were discussed before the Planning Commission dealt with the proposed trails around the property. And I don't know, do we have the trail plan with us here tonight too, or no? Is it on here? Oh, okay, I'm going to identify them here. So you can see them located in the gray area, coming up through this location, all along Bristol Road, along the front of the property. And what is discussed with the Township Planning Commission is providing additional easements around the entire property so that the perimeter can become a trail in the future if the township so desires, along the Schematic Creek and the tributary. So it would create basically 2 loop trails. One that Toll would construct in the gray that would give the residents an internal trail and then an exterior going around the perimeter. There was discussion at the Planning Commission about the township potentially wanting to take the entire open space outside of the interior boundaries of the developed area. Toll is, of course, willing to make that open space available if the township wants. The other discussions in the overall layout dealt with some road configurations and stop sign locations and some sidewalk connections and pedestrian connectivity throughout the site, location of certain parts of the landscaping and whether they were or weren't in sight triangles and whatnot. But there wasn't anything major that changed the overall layout of the plan as compared to what the supervisors, compared to what you had seen previously for the overall project. But that really, I think, hits the high points. We wanted to present it back to you, since now you're going to have to focus on it a little more in the fine-tuned details when it comes back to you for the conditional use as well as for consideration of the preliminary final approval. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have or comments that immediately jump out at you with
Let's
respect
speak more
to this
to the
layout.
open space. What happened to that discussion?
Which part?
Oh.
I mean, we met with the... I'm sorry.
Decide.
Yeah, you would have to decide. We don't have any issues if the township wants to take the open space.
How much is it? I mean, how
How
size?
large?
Yeah.
It's 27 acres in total, and that's the exterior open space. We're talking about the large green, not the interior. The interior would be continue to be owned and maintained by the future homeowners association.
And is it accessible to the public?
Right, and we would make it accessible to the public via an easement. We've talked about different accesses in between units coming in this location, as well as, you can see it a little bit right in here. And those were different locations that we talked about with the Planning Commission so that you could access, come back and around, and then connect back into the interior trail and then come back out onto the street.
Big enough for a park building? Got a spot over there for our park and rec building?
If you get a floodplain variance, maybe.
Is it all floodplain, all that?
A lot of it is very environmental sensitive. In fact, the discussions we had was not to have a paved trail, would be to have some type of wood chip trail back in that location, especially given the environment. No, absolutely. Well, the issue we come across on the trail is accessibility, ADA accessibility.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that would obviously have to be balanced out, but it's certainly something we're flexible in terms of the planning, and we recognize the value to the township of creating that type of trail. I mean, it's a large swath of ground in a very nice area that really would fit nicely in terms of a trail location.
Ray,
And I'm sorry, go ahead,
With your
Rick.
finger, just show
Yes.
how the public will get there without going through your development.
They would have to go into some parts of the development. However, there's an access right here where they could circumvent, and then the township trail would pick up here and then run through this location and then tie back in. So you could come in, we have an emergency access here. We have two forms of access, the main access here and emergency. The Planning Commission had a very good point. They said, why don't you just pave the emergency access rather than doing grass pavers or something else, and then you could use that as a public access to get into the trails as well. So there's two locations. One takes you a little bit more in, the other circumvents and comes around. So,
Thank you.
but you're welcome. And the other things, the Planning Commission had some very good comments about making those areas wider so that one, if you needed to get something back there to create the trail or maintain the trail, like a backhoe or some type of small machinery, you'd have the ability to get in between the units. We also have the same issue because we need to be able to maintain the basins, create them, and construct them. So kind of went hand in hand. It was a very good collaborative process, and I think we met with the Hike and Bike Committee as well, talked to them as well. That's what bike and hike?
Bike and hike, that's all right. It's the same thing.
I tried.
Yeah.
You're going to have to exonerate me later. So I thought it was, normally I come in and, Mr. Garten knows, I'll say maybe we won't, maybe we will, but this made a lot of sense. So these are the discussions that we had with them and we would continue to have with this board as well. And then that kind of dovetails into the one other larger discussion we'd need to have with the board, and that deals with the rec fee, the fee in lieu, or the recreation facilities. So we'd be willing to talk with the board about, this trail versus the payment of the fee, does it make sense? When do you want it? I mean, we could look at potentially putting it in as a credit against what our rec fee is, depending on how much the rec fee is. So these are some discussions we'd like to have with the board and see what makes sense. If you really want this trail right away, maybe that's something that makes sense. If you don't, then maybe you're still looking at the fee in lieu that you could put somewhere else.
Do we know what
So.
the calculation is on the fee in lieu? Was it enough to pay
1880
for
a lot.
it?
About 1,800 times the number of
1880 a
units.
lot.
Right.
By the number of lots.
That would help pay for the rec building.
It would. Or Greg is saying he'll do the trail
Yeah,
all the way
yeah,
around.
that's right.
As a
And-
trade-off.
Correct,
Or
as a
part
credit.
yeah.
And that's really, the discussion that we would need to have with this board, and you'd let us know which direction you wanted to move in.
Okay.
So
Fair
that's
enough.
something else to bring up. And we certainly can give you cost estimates that we would think would cost to construct the trail under our money as opposed to public bids, which would obviously be a higher amount. So.
Well, we wouldn't publicly bid, we'd build it ourselves, probably.
Yeah, but you'd have to have the 20% increase probably, right?
No,
As
we
opposed-
do it
Do
in-house.
our own
Oh, you would do
staff.
it in-house? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
we
sorry, I
do it- sorry,
misunderstood.
yeah.
Oh, internally? So
No,
you wouldn't even
no,
bid? You would
we-
just go out and,
We have really capable people.
that's good.
We can do all that stuff.
Okay,
But
understood.
thank you. No, it's a good consideration.
Yeah,
Thank
and it's
you.
something that we're, obviously you can communicate
We'll
through.
have that conversation
Right.
again.
That's right, between Mr. Gardner, Stephanie, or whoever at the township, we're more than willing to continue that discussion. Other than that, we're happy to answer any other questions that come up.
Any other questions? Anybody?
No, I'm
No?
good.
So at this point, we have a couple of extensions that are before you this evening in
There's a-
terms of the time for both the
Staff would
conditional use
recommend the
as
board
well
approve
as
the 2 extension requests.
Is there a motion to approve the 2 extension requests ending March 19, 2019?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you're good to go.
All right, thank you very
Thank you very
much. We
much
look
for coming.
forward to seeing you quite soon.
Okey-dokey. We'll be here.
And that was under 10 minutes, right, Jeff?
That was very good. Whoever told you that. That was, thank you for paying attention.
You might want to stay for the next one.
Yeah, this involves you.
Yeah.
The next item is just the actual zoning hearing board application that he referenced, which has to do with the ability to bring public sewer from this property to the pump station. So, I mean, I think it's clearly indicative of the fact that we expected it, and because it's crossing the stream, they've got to get a variance.
And I would, as zoning officer, recommend to the board that we go to the hearing in support of the application.
Okay, I'm good with that.
I agree.
All right.
3 people agree?
Do we need
Yep.
I would have a motion would make sense.
Yeah, is there a motion to send the solicitor in support of the application?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is Crown Castle, which is something we discussed in executive session, but are discussing it here again. These are the folks that construct small, look like trash cans on top of telephone poles to facilitate wireless communication. And sometime last year, they were awarded by the Commonwealth Court PUC approval. So the matter is now, they've filed some variances with the zoning hearing board and a validity challenge, so I believe that we would recommend that you direct that we participate in those proceedings as well as meet with them and try to resolve some of the open issues. So that if I could have a motion to that effect, that would be appreciated.
Is there a motion to participate in those proceedings as well as open discussions to try and facilitate an understanding and agreement with Crown Castle?
I'll make that motion.
Okay?
Second.
All right, any questions about the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next item was also discussed in executive session was an application was filed by a group called Vertical Bridge to construct a cell tower in Furlong. The zoning hearing board denied the application. The applicant has filed an appeal, but the zoning hearing board does not support their own decisions. So the staff would recommend that the board support the zoning hearing board and support the decision, authorize our participation in the appellate process from the denial by the zoning hearing board.
Okay,
I think we should support our zoning hearing. I mean, that's what they're there
Agreed.
for.
Yep.
all right.
Motion would be good for that, too.
Is there a motion to
I'll make that
support?
motion.
I'll second.
Okay, everyone understand the motion?
Yep.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're good to go.
That's all I have.
Thank you. There's also a request for public sewer hookup, 2321 Lower State Road.
Yes, you have the information from Ms. Naples, along with the information from the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority, and the waiver to connect to the public sewer to go to DEP. Recommendation that the board allow this property, who's beginning to have problems with the property and public sewers out there, to connect to the public sewer and go through the process to obtain the appropriate documentation from DEP and
Okay.
approvals.
Is there a motion to that effect for 2321 Lower State Road?
Absolutely. We've got to get sewer to everybody in that area.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Everyone in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Thank you. That sounds like 5-0. All right, last couple items on the agenda. The treasurer's report for February 19, 2019. You received electronically. Any questions?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve it?
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Similarly, the bills list for February 19, 2019. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's pretty much it. Announcements. I'm just going to make one announcement, and that is go to doylestownrec.com and look at the music venue, the pet event, and the playgrounds, and vote for the Thompson Performing Arts Series, the Fido Float at Fanny Chapman, and the Kids Castle. And then I'll dispense with the rest of the meetings, except for the EAC,
Yes.
Pennsylvania Lyme Prevention Program at Val University on April 3rd. That's an important one. The rest are Park and Rec related, and they're available on the site. Hearing no other business, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Documents to be